2 weeks later. Sorry. I need to step away for a sec. After that incident, I had completely lost my appetite. You okay? You're all skin and bones and you look like a ghost. After clinical training, I was taking a break when a friend came to check on me. Yeah. You should probably get a checkup just in case. This is a hospital, you know.
What's wrong?
He's been kinda under the weather lately.
Any fever?
No. The only symptom thus far is lack of appetite.
That could be a precursor to a serious illness. You should have a doctor look at you just in case.
Caving to the peer pressure, I scheduled my first ever psychiatry appointment.
What brings you in today?
I haven't been eating much lately. I got a CT scan and an endoscopy, but they didn't find anything, so they referred me to you. To tell the truth, I was fairly reluctant to come here. Unlike visible injuries treated by surgery or internal medicine, psychiatry treated invisible illnesses of the mind. I had some textbook knowledge of the field, but no experience with the mentally ill. My vague understanding was that they were societal outcasts. As for me, I had survived a lifetime of judgment and discrimination, and for some reason, I was convinced it made me stronger as a person.
I see. When did you first notice a loss of appetite?
2 weeks ago.
Can you think of anything unpleasant that might have turned your stomach around that time?
Just one.
If it's something you feel comfortable telling me, then by all means, please do.
His tone was cold and clinical. 2 weeks ago I saw a dead body. It was already decomposing, and the stench was intense. Since then, whenever I try to eat, the memories come flooding back. It's perfectly normal food. It should smell good, but I just can't eat it.
Have you spoken to anyone else about this?
No, I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
I see. Now, the body that you saw, was it someone close to you?
No. I had met a young boy purely by chance, and when he invited me to his house, that was when I saw it. It was his mother.
Did you report it?
Yes.
Then it sounds like the loss of appetite is caused by mild PTSD from that incident.
Right. As we talked, I came to terms with the fact that my condition was psychological. Awkwardly, I began to volunteer more information about myself. Ever since I can remember, I've been deeply uncomfortable with gore. That might be part of it.
What do you mean by gore?
It shames me to admit, but blood makes me squeamish.
That's actually quite common in men. Personally, I don't enjoy the sight myself.
Then, for the first time, the doctor's stoic expression shifted into a soft smile.
Any history of mental illness?
None.
I see. I'm afraid it's not as straightforward as physical illness. Something that seems minor to one person can be deeply damaging to another. And sometimes, you yourself might think it's minor, when in fact it's scarred you far worse than you realize. These invisible traumas are hard to diagnose. Adaptability varies from person to person, which is to say, everyone manages stress differently. As I touched on earlier, there are differences between genders as well. But in your case, anyone in your shoes would have had the same experience. It's a normal reaction to a highly abnormal situation, so I hope you won't beat yourself up over it. For now, I'll prescribe you some anti-anxiety medication. Take one after every meal until you run out.
Happy pills? He must have sensed hesitation in my tone. He set out the pills on his desk and began to explain.
This medication is designed to ease feelings of fear and tension. Side effects include drowsiness, dizziness, and possible weight gain. There's a low risk of dependency, so it's often used to treat things like shoulder stiffness too. I take it myself. That being said, I don't recommend driving under the effects.
Understood.
Lastly, I encourage you to get plenty of sleep each night. You're a medical intern, right? Duty-bound kids like you often don't notice their own stress. I understand you must be very busy, but you have to make time to rest each day.
Right. Thank you, sir. I was really anxious going into this appointment, but now that it was over, I felt a bit better. Unlike other medical fields, there was no clear-cut diagnosis, but maybe that was for the best. I continued to attend the clinic as an outpatient, and as I took my pills, my life gradually went back to normal.
How are you feeling now?
A lot better, actually. I'm eating regularly again, and I'm almost back to my normal weight.
Glad to hear it. And the pills?
I take them after every meal.
Do they make you feel calmer? What about the drowsiness? Not too excessive?
Not really.
I see. Sounds like they're working as intended. Now that you're in a better place, let's start easing you off the medication. If you take too much, your body may develop a dependency or a resistance to its effects.
Right. In contrast with my first visit, I was much more comfortable with him now. At first he seemed cold and unfeeling, but after my second visit, he began to smile more, and I started to think of him as a good, caring doctor.
I'm curious if this is the same doctor that treated Alice.
Once I regained control of my mental health, I started paying more attention from the perspective of a med school student.
There's no one correct way to heal a person's mind. Some recover quickly, while others carry it with them forever. You can control it with medication to a degree, but it never truly fixes the problem. It isn't as though there's some pathogen lurking inside that can be eradicated. Generally speaking, however, treatment often boils down to the same thing. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Solving the problem they're struggling with, I guess.
Precisely. But of course, in some scenarios, there will still be lingering effects long after the problem itself is gone. Those are always the hardest to treat.
Psychology, huh? Frankly, I never wanted to be a doctor to begin with. I only chose this path because I didn't think I had any other option.
You said you're not fit to be a hunter, but I think you might be wrong about that. Sure, you're tactless, outspoken, nosy, and utterly dense. But you carry yourself with conviction and a strong sense of compassion. It's not like a hunter's entire job is to look at blood all day, right?
Snow White's words replayed in my mind. I sure hope he's doing okay. I hadn't seen him since that fateful night. No clue where he was or what he was doing. If the trauma was enough to destroy me, a grown adult, There was no telling how crushing it must have been for a young kid like him. What was I supposed to do back then? Ultimately, I still didn't have the answer. But if I ever got another chance to see him, then I wanted to have all the knowledge and skills at my disposal to help him.
So he became a psychiatrist because he was inspired by Snow White. I love that. I love learning about that.
Hello again. From then on, I visited the psychiatrist every day. Not for my own treatment, but as an intern. Because I had officially decided to major in psychiatry.
You love to see it. That's great.
Time flew by. I graduated from med school, passed my board exam, and became a first-year resident. Morning already.
How crazy. Like, he went into that, and that's what ended up bringing him around to meeting Alice years later. I do want to know how he, like, draws the connection that Alice and Eureka were friends, and he's like, you gotta get over here. I think this is the guy. So I want to see all that play out.
Good morning. As a resident, my life was now extremely hectic. Every morning, I showed up ahead of my superiors for ward rounds. After that came case presentations, team rounds, chart updates, conferences. My work continued well into the night. How are you feeling today?
My throat hurts, and I have a fever. I think it's probably just a cold, but still.
That's a pretty high fever. Can I take a look at your throat? Looking a little red. Pardon me just a moment. Your lymph nodes are a bit swollen. Next, I'm going to use the stethoscope. Can you unbutton your shirt?
Got it.
Take a breath. Now let's see your back. Thank you very much. No abnormalities detected. I'd say it's just a cold. I updated the patient's chart, then asked the senior resident to confirm. Sure, I had chosen a specialty, but I still needed to learn the basics.
I figured.
One of the main jobs of a medical resident, emergency outpatient services. A lot of the time I was on call, I would lie on a bed in the on-call room and read books to study. I lost 6 pounds. Ugh, I lost 4. With all the emergency patients, we were constantly running on no food and barely any sleep.
I like to imagine that the same friends he's had from high school are just following him through college and then also into medical residency. That's why I'm keeping the voices the same. I'm like, in my head canon, it's just the same 2 guys.
Not only that, but as medical residents, part of the job involved nurses' duties like IV insertion and drawing blood.
Ugh.
I knew it was a necessary part of being a doctor, but for me, it was honestly the hardest part.
What's wrong?
I really don't like jabbing people with needles.
You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who does. Though I'm sure they exist, of course. Still, a doctor can't show fear or else it'll spook the patient. Just pop it in, get what you need, and they won't even feel it. No need to feel bad.
Right. I had attended the hospital since my college days, and I enjoyed the opportunity to learn new things in a familiar environment. None of the people there were hung up on my appearance. They treated me the same as anyone else.
See? Your college professor was wrong. You didn't have to dye your hair or nothing.
Honestly, I'm surprised no one has said anything. About what? My looks. I thought they'd complain a bit more. But instead, it's more like a perk that helps everyone remember my name. Dude, humble brag much? I'm not! The women and kids all love you. Oh, must be nice to be handsome. Oh yeah? You want strangers to ask you what kind of stress turned your hair gray prematurely? No thank you! I was joking at the time, but deep down I truly felt blessed. I had finally come to terms with my special appearance, and the people in my life were willing to accept me regardless. Perhaps there were circumstances I wasn't privy to, but either way, I felt exceptionally lucky. That being said, working at a hospital, most of my encounters were with strangers.
Oh, there he is! It's him! It's the ghost! Get the holy water! Hey now, that's rude! That man is a doctor just like all the others! Oh, come on!
It's quite alright. I do look sort of like a ghost.
The ghost talked!
No matter where I went, fate kept bringing little brats into my life.
Poor Ryoshi.
Oh, it's Dr. Ryoushi! Hey, Dr. Ryoushi, how come you're all white?
Children would often flag me down while I was making my rounds. Well, Ivory, you know how you were born with black hair? It's the same as that. I was born with white hair. I always made sure to crouch down and meet them at their eye level.
Stop, my heart. So wholesome.
I was never formally trained to do this, but I got the sense they would feel more seen this way.
But everybody has black hair! I've never seen hair like yours before!
Well, I'm not like most people. I was supposed to be born with black hair, but God messed up and forgot to give me as much color as everyone else. They didn't seem to get it. They stared back at me in confusion.
So it's a disease? Can you cure it?
They haven't found a cure for it so far.
What?
You don't have to worry about me. I'm fine. I may look a little different, but I'm just the same as everybody else. I'm a doctor, aren't I?
Oh. Gosh, don't scare me like that. You gotta say that part first.
You were scared.
No.
Aw, look at this happy boy.
His blunt rejection made me chuckle. It reminded me of Snow White. What's the matter?
If it's not a disease, then I don't want you to cure it.
Huh?
I really love your hair and your eyes. They're so pretty.
Thanks. I like them too.
At least you know when a kid compliments you that they're being sincere.
Around the time I'd finally adjusted to life as a resident. At long last, it was time for my psychiatry clinic rotation, and I was pumped. Next on the schedule is a family consultation for schizophrenia. I'd better prep the materials.
Oh, there he is. It's time.
Just then, during my ward rounds, I spotted a familiar face. Snow White? Hey, Snow White!
Huh?
I'd recognize those blue eyes and that wavy blonde hair anywhere. He was much taller now, but his facial features had scarcely changed a bit. Long time no see. What brings you here? I've been worried about you, you know, but I didn't have any way to contact you. I never thought I'd bump into you here of all places, but... well, I'm just happy you're doing okay. As I patted his head, he flinched.
Look,
Huh? There was a long moment of silence as he struggled to speak.
Snow White? I think you have the wrong person. My name isn't Snow White. And I don't know you.
I was stunned speechless.
Alistair? Oh. Anyway, sorry, but I have to go.
With a polite bow, he headed off with the woman who came to get him. What's going on? Alone, I struggled to process what had just happened. He was bigger now, and his voice was deeper, but it was still clearly Snow White, and yet he denied ever knowing me. Could he really be an uncanny look-alike? Or was there some reason he had to pretend he didn't know me? Luckily, I would soon learn the answer. During my residency in the psychiatry clinic, the doctor who had helped me regain my appetite mentioned something interesting.
It is the same doctor.
that reminds me. I spoke to a boy with DID today.
DID. Dissociative Identity Disorder. Isn't that the multiple personality disorder you hear so much about?
Yes, precisely. Have you ever met someone with it before?
I've seen video footage, but not in real life, no.
It's never easy to diagnose a mental illness, but dissociative identity disorder in particular is especially hard. They say a diagnosis often takes several years.
But you managed to diagnose the boy who came in today, right?
Yes. There's still a chance I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive.
On what grounds?
I received a report from his caseworker. During his time in foster care, he developed a reputation as a pathological liar, claiming to be filthy rich, for example, or claiming to be from England.
The moon?
While he was speaking in an English accent at the time, his birth certificate is Japanese, and I'm told he's never set foot out of the country. In addition, he's had frequent lapses in memory. Classic symptoms of DID, am I right?
As we spoke, I kept thinking about the night I parted ways with Snow White. I had a powerful hunch that something was wrong back then, and now I was slowly starting to unravel the mystery.
Ryoushi?
Doctor, would it be possible for me to meet with this patient? A few days later, I was allowed to sit in on a consultation with the DID patient.
Coming in.
One look at the boy who walked in, and my suspicions were instantly confirmed.
Oh!
I knew it was you.
Hmm? What's going on here?
Well,
After the appointment, I admitted that I was acquainted with the patient and explained my pet theory.
I see. So he's the child you mentioned to me previously.
Yes, sir.
Judging from both of your accounts, it sounds like you were acquainted not with the real him, but one of the personalities hidden inside him.
I honestly had no idea.
Most people wouldn't know from a few isolated encounters. Besides, you didn't have the knowledge back then.
He was living with his mother's corpse. Frankly, I can't begin to imagine what sort of trauma that must have inflicted.
Indeed. Almost all DID patients have experienced abuse in their early childhood. Perhaps that was what caused your Snow White to come into being.
Child abuse. The idea weighed heavily on me. Meanwhile, the memories revived vividly in the back of my mind. I've always wondered what happened to him, but I never would have guessed. If only I'd reported it to the police, or CPS the first night I saw him. Maybe then he...
You mustn't blame yourself, Ryoushi. Hindsight is always 20/20. And that applies to everyone, including me.
He wore a sympathetic smile to calm me down.
So his name was Snow White, and he called you Huntsman. I feel a connection there. The Huntsman is the hero who rescues Snow White. Are you familiar with the fairy tale? Snow White's wicked stepmother orders him to kill her, but instead he allows her to escape into the forest.
It's the other way around. He's the one who saved me. I wouldn't be here today if he hadn't inspired me to believe in myself.
You said you're not fit to be a hunter, but I think you might be wrong about that. Sure, you're tactless, outspoken, nosy, and utterly dense. But you carry yourself with conviction and a strong sense of compassion.
He told me that being a hunter was about more than looking at blood all day. And those words rescued me from despair.
I see. Do you want to heal him?
Yes.
It's extremely difficult to treat dissociative identity disorder, and I doubt his case will be an exception. That being said, I want to heal him too. Let's both do what we can.
Yes, sir.
If only the doctor had stayed good. Why? What? What do we see from Ryoshi's perspective during this time?
From there, I devoted myself to Alistair and his treatment plan. You're going to have him admitted.
Yes. Right now he's very fragile mentally, and his condition is precarious. The way things stand, there's no telling when he might create yet another personality, and that new personality may endanger others. Thus far, we have the host Alistair, plus Cinderella, Snow White, Red Riding Hood, and Kaguya. Each of them has deep emotional trauma. Of those, Kaguya is most susceptible to self-harm. He was created when Alistair was shunted back and forth between his relatives' houses. He may seem friendly at first glance, but he never opens up. He doesn't trust people. Complicated, isn't it? Multiple people with their own issues all combined into one. To heal Alistair, one must heal each and every one of them. Basic treatment for DID involves setting up a secure environment for recovery, a support network of family members, and a relationship of trust. This patient didn't have anyone he could turn to for help. So that's where we'll start.
Okay, so that's where, like, the little idea starts taking form, probably, as a seed in Ryoshi's mind. Having the support network of a family, stability. Gotcha.
As instructed, I took steps to have Alistair admitted to the hospital. As of today, you'll be staying here. This is the nurse call button. Press it if you need something. Be sure to call a nurse and ask permission before bringing anything into your room.
Right.
His expression was gloomy. No surprise there. Hospital rules dictated that all patients would start in a locked ward, then progress to an open ward once their condition stabilized. In a locked ward, patients had no freedom. Items permitted inside the room were restricted to prevent self-harm, and the windows didn't have curtains. A strange sight to someone who wasn't used to it. It may feel inconvenient at first, but don't worry. You'll progress to an open ward in no time.
I'm crazy, aren't I?
No, you're not. You're just more emotionally sensitive than most, and as a result, you're more fragile. You need to give yourself a break from the stress, and we're here to help you with that. He stared at the floor and didn't respond. I started to reassure him further, but stopped myself. Something was telling me that nothing I could say would reach him. Hey, that ribbon. Just then, my gaze wandered to the ribbon in his hair. Only now did I realize it looked a lot like the navy blue ribbons my sister used to wear.
Wow, you spent all those nights with Snow White, and it's not till like now you're like, wait a minute?
Oh, I was just thinking it looked familiar. See, my sister...
Oh. Don't touch it!
When I reached out, he screamed at me.
I mean, I'm so sorry.
No. If anything, I should apologize. It holds a lot of sentimental value, right? I smiled reassuringly. But I needed to remember that as familiar as I was with Snow White, I didn't know Alistair. Of course, inexplicable kindness from a total stranger would frighten him.
Right.
He glanced at me, then went back to staring at the floor. Though it wouldn't happen overnight, I would simply have to rebuild a relationship of trust with him from square one.
It's pretty weird for a guy to put a ribbon in his hair, huh?
I don't see a problem with it. There's no law against it, is there? So if you want to wear it, I say wear it. If not, then don't. No one's gonna force you. Personally, I think it looks great on you.
Aww, a genuine little smile. Good job, Ryoushi.
Thank you. His smile was a lot like Snow White's.